Let me ask you something that might genuinely change the way you see money. Who do you picture when you hear the word rich? Go on, close your eyes for a second. You probably pictured a surgeon rushing between operating rooms, or a corporate lawyer billing $400 an hour, or maybe a corner office executive with a company car and a six-figure salary. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of those people are not rich. They're well paid. There's a difference, and that difference is everything. The new rich are not earning their way to wealth. They are owning their way there. They don't have fancy job titles. They might not even have a job in the traditional sense. What they have are assets, things that go up in value while they sleep, that generate cash, whether or not they showed up to work today. And here's the kicker. This is not a secret club. The rules are completely learnable. But first, you have to unlearn almost everything your school, your parents, and your culture told you about what it means to be successful. Stay with me. I'm going to walk you through exactly who the new rich are, how they think, what they own, and, most importantly, how you can start moving in that direction right now, regardless of where you're starting from. The illusion of high income. Let's start by destroying a myth. The myth is that a high income equals wealth. It doesn't. Not automatically. Not even usually. Consider this. The average American physician earns somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 per year. That sounds extraordinary, and honestly, it is. Years of school, residency, debt, sacrifice, all of it paid off in a big salary. But the average physician doesn't become wealthy until their 50s or 60s, if ever. Why? Because they're spending decades paying off medical school debt, buying a home that stretches their budget, upgrading their lifestyle to match their peers, and working so many hours they have no time to invest or build anything else. They are running on a treadmill. A very expensive, very prestigious treadmill, but a treadmill nonetheless. Now, compare that to someone who, at 28 years old, bought a small duplex in a working-class neighborhood, rented both units, and then repeated that process every 2 to 3 years. By 40, they might own 8 or 10 units. They might never have earned more than $80,000 a year from a salary. But their net worth could be over $1 million and climbing, while the doctor is still paying off loans. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you own. This distinction is not just semantic, it's the foundation of everything we're going to talk about today. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine two streams flowing toward a lake. The first stream is your paycheck. It flows in every 2 weeks, steady, reliable. But if you plug the source, if you stop working, the stream stops immediately. The second stream is what your assets generate: rental income, dividends, business cash flow, royalties. That stream keeps flowing even when you're asleep, even when you're on vacation, even when you're sick. The new rich are obsessed with the second stream. They might have the first one too, but they never confuse it with real financial security. Robert Kiyosaki called this the difference between an asset and a liability. And despite how many times that idea has been repeated, most people still don't actually live by it. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. And here's the brutal reality. Most of what middle-class culture tells you to acquire, a bigger house, a nicer car, the latest phone, is a liability dressed up as a status symbol. The new rich understood this early, and it changed everything. Quick check-in. What have we covered so far? What the new rich actually own. So, if the new rich aren't necessarily high earners, what are they? They're asset accumulators. Let's walk through the 4 major categories of appreciating assets that the new rich tend to own. Asset class number 1. Real estate. Real estate remains the single most proven wealth-building vehicle for ordinary people in modern history. Why? Because it does 3 things simultaneously that almost nothing else does. First, it appreciates. Over long time horizons, property values go up. Not every year, not in every market, but consistently over decades. Second, it generates income. A rental property pays you every month through rents, regardless of what you're doing with your time. And third, here's the part most people underestimate, it uses leverage. When you put 20% down on a $100,000 property, you control the entire asset with $20,000. If that property appreciates by 10%, which is $10,000, you've just made a 50% return on your $20,000 investment. You cannot do that with a savings account. You cannot do that with most stock investments without enormous risk. The new rich are not all buying luxury penthouses. Many of them own modest single-family homes, small apartment buildings, or commercial strip malls in secondary cities. They buy boring, they hold long, and they let time and tenants do the work. Asset class number 2, equity and index funds. The second great wealth engine of the new rich is equity ownership, primarily through low-cost index funds and, for some, direct business equity. Here's the single most powerful investing insight of the last 50 years. The stock market, on average, has returned approximately 10% per year over long periods. And with index funds, you don't need to pick winners. You own a tiny slice of every major company. You win when the economy grows. The new rich are not stock pickers. They're not day traders glued to their screens. They're consistent contributors. Every month, automatically, money moves from their checking account into index funds. They don't watch the news to time the market. They just own. Warren Buffett, arguably the greatest investor alive, has repeatedly said that the average person should simply buy a low-cost S&P 500 index fund and hold it forever. That's it. No fancy strategy, no hot tips, just consistent ownership of a broad slice of American business. Asset class number 3, small businesses. The third asset class is one that gets underestimated, the small cash-flowing business. I'm not talking about tech startups burning through venture capital. I'm talking about the plumbing company, the landscaping business, the car wash, the self-storage facility. These businesses generate reliable, recurring cash flows. And cash flow, when reinvested into more assets, creates compounding wealth. Many of the wealthiest people in any mid-sized city are not famous. They own 3 storage facilities and a coin-operated laundromat. They have a good life, work reasonable hours, and their businesses keep printing money while they go on vacation. The new rich understand that you don't need to build the next Apple. You need to build something that runs without you and generates more than it costs. Asset class number 4, intellectual property and digital assets. The fourth category is newer but increasingly powerful, intellectual property and digital assets. Books, courses, software, patents, YouTube channels, newsletters, music catalogs. These assets have a unique quality. They cost real effort to create once, and then they generate income repeatedly, often indefinitely. A book written in 2010 can still sell in 2030. A course recorded once can be purchased thousands of times without the creator doing additional work. The new rich in this category often started as regular people who created something useful, packaged their knowledge, and let it work for them. The barrier to entry has never been lower. The upside has never been higher. Pause and reflect. Which asset class could you start with? Ask yourself honestly, could I save a down payment for a small rental property? Am I consistently investing in index funds every single month? Do I have knowledge or a skill that could be packaged as a product? Is there a simple service business I could build or buy? You don't have to do all four. You just have to start one. The mindset shift that makes it possible. Owning these assets is not primarily a financial challenge. It's a mindset challenge. Because the new rich don't just behave differently from the middle class, they think differently. And that thinking shapes every financial decision they make. Mindset shift number 1, from spending to deploying. Most people think of money as something to spend. The new rich think of money as something to deploy. Every dollar that leaves your hands is either buying you something that depreciates, like a car or a vacation, or something that appreciates and generates returns. The new rich are not miserly. They spend on experiences and things they love. But they are deliberate. Before every major purchase, a version of this question runs in the background. Is this the highest value use of this capital right now? This doesn't mean you never buy a nice dinner or upgrade your laptop. It means you are conscious that money is a tool, and tools should be used intentionally. Mindset shift number 2, from linear to exponential thinking. One of the most counterintuitive truths in all of personal finance is the power of compounding, and how profoundly human brains underestimate it. Here's a simple illustration. If you invest $10,000 at a 10% annual return and never touch it, in 30 years you have $174,000 without adding a single additional dollar. But if you invest $10,000 and add $500 per month for those same 30 years, you end up with over $1 million. The new rich don't just understand this intellectually. They feel it in their bones. It rewires how they think about time. A $500 splurge today isn't just $500. At a 10% return over 30 years, it's over $8,000. Every dollar has a future value, and the new rich are always aware of that. Mindset shift number 3, from job security to cash flow security. Perhaps the most fundamental shift of all. The new rich don't chase job security. They chase cash flow security. Job security is an illusion. Your company can downsize. Your industry can be disrupted. Your health can change. Any of those events can erase income you thought was guaranteed. Cash flow security is different. If you own assets that generate $2,000 a month in rental income, that income doesn't disappear when your employer decides to restructure. It doesn't vanish when the market dips. It is genuinely independent of your daily labor. The goal, and this is the North Star of the new rich, is to reach a point where your passive income exceeds your living expenses. At that point, work becomes optional. Every day you work after that is a choice, not a necessity. That number is different for everyone. For some, it's $3,000 a month. For others, it's $15,000. But the trajectory is the same. Accumulate assets, generate cash flow, reduce the gap between your income needs and your passive income, and eventually close it. Mindset shift number 4, from lone wolf to network builder. The new rich also understand that wealth is not a solo sport. They build networks. They find mentors who've done what they're trying to do. They partner on deals. They share knowledge. This runs counter to the cultural myth of the self-made genius who figured it all out alone. Almost no one who is genuinely wealthy built it alone. They stood on the shoulders of people who came before them, leveraged relationships, and contributed to communities that gave back. If you're serious about building wealth, the most accelerated path is almost always Find people who already have what you want and learn everything you can from them. Mindset Recap: The 4 shifts of the new rich. Deploy money intentionally. Every dollar is a tool. Think exponentially. Compounding is your greatest ally. Build cash flow security, not job security. Invest in relationships and networks, not just markets. The Practical Roadmap. How do you actually start? Enough theory. Let's talk about a practical roadmap, a staircase you can actually climb, regardless of where you're starting from. Step 1. Stop the bleeding. Before you can build wealth, you have to stop the forces that are eroding it. This means getting ruthlessly honest about your spending, eliminating high-interest debt, particularly credit card debt, and building an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses. This step isn't glamorous. It doesn't involve any exciting investments, but it is non-negotiable. You cannot build on a foundation that is actively crumbling. High-interest debt is a wealth destruction machine. Pay it off before anything else. Step 2. Automate your investing. Once you have that foundation, automate your investing. Set up an automatic transfer every single payday into a low-cost index fund. Even if it's a small amount, even if it feels insignificant. The goal at this stage is not the amount. The goal is the habit and the compounding timeline. Every month you delay starting is a month of compounding you can never get back. Start small, start now, and increase the amount as your income grows. Step 3. Acquire your first real asset. The third step is the one that tends to create a psychological shift. Acquiring your first substantial asset. For many people, this is a rental property. For others, it might be a small business acquisition, a significant equity stake, or a portfolio large enough to generate its first monthly dividend payment. When you first receive a check from an asset, when a tenant pays rent, or your brokerage account credits a dividend, something changes. You feel viscerally what passive income is, and you want more of it. That feeling is the fuel that drives the next acquisition, and the one after that. Don't wait for the perfect asset. The best investment is often the one you're willing to actually make. Start modest, learn from the experience, and apply those lessons to the next one. Step 4. Reinvest aggressively and repeat. Once you have cash-flowing assets, the temptation will be to spend that cash flow on lifestyle upgrades. Resist it, at least initially. Reinvest aggressively. Every dollar of rental income that goes into the next property purchase is a dollar that compounds geometrically. The difference between someone who reinvests their early cash flow and someone who spends it can be millions of dollars over a 20-year period. The new rich are not ascetics. They do upgrade their lives, but they do it strategically, increasing their lifestyle only when their asset base can sustain it without slowing their accumulation. The flywheel: earn income, invest in assets, collect cash flow from assets, reinvest into more assets, earn more cash flow. That is the loop. Run it consistently, and over time, wealth becomes almost mathematically inevitable. Your 4-step roadmap at a glance. Step 1. Stop the bleeding, kill debt, build an emergency fund. Step 2. Automate investing. Small, consistent, non-negotiable. Step 3. Acquire your first asset. Make it real, not theoretical. Step 4. Reinvest and repeat. Let the flywheel accelerate. One honest question before the final chapter. Which step are you on right now, and what is the single next action? Common traps that keep people stuck. Before we close, I want to name 5 traps that derail people who are otherwise smart and hardworking. These are the invisible forces that keep would-be asset builders stuck in the paycheck cycle. Trap number 1. Lifestyle inflation. Every time your income goes up, your spending goes up to match it. The car gets nicer, the apartment gets bigger, but your net worth stays the same because the gap between income and savings never widens. The new rich consciously resist this. They let their asset base grow before their lifestyle does. Trap number 2. Waiting for certainty. There is no perfect time to buy a property, start a business, or make an investment. Markets will always be uncertain. Interest rates will always be debatable. Political environments will always be unpredictable. The people who wait for perfect conditions never start. The people who act imperfectly but consistently are the ones who build wealth. Trap number 3. Confusing busyness with productivity. You can be extraordinarily busy, meetings, emails, deliverables, and still not be building any wealth because none of your activity is directed toward acquiring assets. The new rich are not always the hardest workers. They are the most strategically directed workers. They know that a few hours spent researching an investment might generate more long-term value than 100 hours of overtime. Trap number 4. Social comparison. This one is brutal and pervasive. The neighbor who bought the luxury SUV, the colleague who posted photos from Bali, the high school friend who seems to have an amazing house and an amazing life. These images, curated, filtered, and often financially fragile, drive spending decisions that set people back by years. The new rich are often quietly living below their means while their net worth silently climbs. Trap number 5. The false safety of a single income stream. If 100% of your income comes from one job, you are one decision, by one boss at one company, away from financial crisis. The new rich diversify their income streams deliberately. Not all at once, but over time, they build multiple sources: salary, rental income, dividends, side business revenue. Each stream makes them less vulnerable and more free. Final thought. Let me bring this full circle. The new rich are not people who got lucky. They're not people who were born into it, though some were. They are, more often than not, ordinary people who learned one profound lesson earlier than everyone else. Your time has a ceiling. Your assets do not. You can only work so many hours. You can only charge so much per hour. There is a hard limit on what labor alone can produce. But assets, businesses, real estate, investments, intellectual property, they don't sleep. They don't get tired. They don't ask for a raise. They just grow. The most powerful thing you can do starting today is shift even a small percentage of your focus from "how do I earn more" to "what can I own?" Start with the knowledge, then move to the action, then let time and compounding do what they do best. This is not a path for the impatient. Real wealth built on real assets takes years, not months. But those years pass either way. The only question is, what will you own at the end of them? The new rich made their choice. Now you get to make yours. If this video shifted something in how you think about money and wealth, and I genuinely hope it did, here's what I want you to do right now. Every week I put out videos on wealth building, asset acquisition, and financial independence that you won't find in your school curriculum or your company handbook. This is a community of people who are serious about building something real. Drop a comment below and tell me which of the 4 asset classes you're most interested in starting with: real estate, index funds, small businesses, or intellectual property. I read every comment and I use them to shape future content. Your answer today might become somebody else's breakthrough video tomorrow. Share this video with one person in your life who needs to hear it. Maybe it's a friend who's stressed about money, a sibling who's stuck in the paycheck cycle, or a partner who needs a new lens on what financial success actually looks like. One share might change someone's financial trajectory forever. And finally, the new rich are not who you thought. Now you know who they are. The only question left is whether you'll become one of them. I'll see you in the next video.